What's going on, everybody? Welcome into Jump Street episode 2. Will Ford here on the Storied Rivals Podcast Network. We're sitting down with head coach Todd McLoughlin of Tri-Valley Boys Basketball here in this episode. Tri-Valley's 4-1 to start the year. They lost their opening game of the year to DeSales by 10. And then since then, 4 straight wins. They're averaging 72 points per game in that span. A lot of guys are getting their hand in the cookie jar, scoring the basketball. They've been balanced offensively, but we all know that the Tri-Valley brand of basketball is defense and get out in transition and get some quick, easy baskets that way and just put tons of pressure on you defensively and try to force turnovers. And that is their brand of basketball. That's what they do. But they've been extremely efficient offensively through the first 5 games. And they play the Maysville Panthers, the MVL champs from a year ago, Tuesday night. So we talked about getting ready for that game against head coach Dave Brown, Alex Bob, and the Panthers. The offensive output that Tri-Valley is put forth through the first 5 games of the season. And some of those guys, playing football, made a playoff run, a little banged up from football, I'm sure, as physical as football is. Not that basketball is not a physical sport, but, football, you're getting hit every single play. And so we talked about those guys getting reintegrated back into basketball, getting into basketball shape, and just playing so well offensively and defensively through the first 5 games and getting ready for this Maysville Panthers team. And we also talked a little Christmas favorites at the end, because why not? Christmas is a week away. So, talk plans for Christmas with family and friends and his favorite Christmas movie. So I'll let you you have to stick it out to the end to hear what his favorite Christmas movie is. But here is head coach Todd McLoughlin of the Tri-Valley Scotties boys basketball here on the Storied Rivals Podcast Network. We're here with head coach Todd McLoughlin of the Tri-Valley boys basketball team going into this 2023-2024 season. Coach, I really appreciate you taking the time to join our show here on Jump Street. And 4-1 record to start the season and a 4-game winning streak after losing the first game of the season to DeSales. But a lot of your guys were football players, and they made it to the playoffs round 2. And so then once they finish up football season, they only really have about a month's worth of time to kind of get into basketball shape, get into that flow. And of course, the grind of a football season, a lot of those guys can be banged up and just have some nicks here and there. And so it might take some time to just kind of get into a flow. But what has impressed you about the way that those football kids have, come into this season, as well as the rest of your team, this 4-game winning streak that you're on, and you're averaging 72 points per game?
Well, I tell you, a lot of our guys, a lot of football guys, are returning lettermen from last year's squad. So, a lot of the things we teach and things we go over, they're familiar with from an offense and defense standpoint. But for the most part, I think they're almost what you would consider basketball shape now. They did make a little bit of a playoff run, but they were able to jump in the gym right away and start working on some of our fundamentals and just getting, like I said, just getting your wind underneath of you and your basketball legs back underneath you. But they've done a nice job at this point.
Now, the Philo win last game, 76-41, he had 10 different players hit the scoring column, so extremely balanced offensively. And I feel like maybe in a couple years past, the offense maybe tended to rely a little bit more on one guy, kind of like a Luke Lyle a couple years ago, to kind of account for most of your production offensively. But now you've got a bunch of different guys that are hitting the scoring column for you. You now have Noah Nichols, Max Lyle, Terrell Darden, Eric Neal, tons of different guys are scoring. What have you tried to preach offensively to be as balanced as you have through this early portion of the season?
Well, I'm going to be completely honest. We really haven't focused a ton on offense from just a simple standpoint. We've been focusing a lot on defense. That's the one area that we can always control is our effort on the defense side of the ball. And a lot of times our offense is created by our defense. But when you refer to offensively, getting different guys involved, and the one thing that this group has done, they've done a nice job of sharing the basketball. I really feel like the chemistry is pretty good right now at this stage of the season. Hopefully it continues to grow. But we've got a lot of guys with some decent basketball IQ, and they understand, what a good shot is, what a great shot is. There are a lot of times we have guys that always feel that they can probably score, but we always preach, hey, if you got a good shot, let's see if we can get a great shot. And to this point, we've done a really nice job of doing that, sharing the basketball, and it makes the game of basketball really easy when the kids share rather than go for an extra pass.
Now, in practice, this early portion of the season, are you just focusing a lot more on just kind of defensive schematics, being in the right place, whether it's man-to-man defense in a zone, and then obviously you want to try to force turnovers to get out in transition, which I feel like is just the epitome of Tri-Valley basketball. Is that kind of what, I mean, that's probably your focus throughout the season, an entire season every year, but is that especially the case in the early portion of a new season?
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. Just being fundamentally sound and being in the correct position. And one thing that we've really stressed this year, we've tried to really emphasize communicating much better than what we've done in the past. We've got guys with experience, like I've mentioned before, but our communication has been better. Um, and we've asked our kids to be a little more active with their hands this year, just use their length, their overall length, which has caused some teams maybe getting in the pass lanes. It's caused a little extra deflection here or there. But I'm really pleased with our effort from the defense side of things. Hopefully, it continues, and which I'm sure it will, because we have a great group of kids right now.
Now, you've got a big matchup, early season matchup against Maysville tomorrow night, and you split with them last year. They were league champs. They won a district title. They were state ranked, really good team, as you guys were as well. But they are a team that, as you know, they like to shoot a lot of threes. They like to run and jump, and they hoist them up, man. So kind of, I guess, what do you do to get out and close out their shooters tomorrow, make things a little bit uncomfortable, maybe force them to drive to the paint and, push them off that 3-point line?
You're exactly right. That's something we got to be able to do. Coach Brown does an excellent job with those guys over there. I know they're always fundamentally sound. They play hard defense where they get after you. And you know what? They got some guys who really shoot the ball well. So we're going to have our hands full. Obviously, it's going to be a huge challenge for us. Just getting out and guarding the 3-point line. They got some great players. Particularly Alex Bobb, who's a great scorer and letting up, but he does a great job of getting everyone else involved. One of our earlier games this year, we played DeSales, our very first game. We gave up 8 made 3-pointers in the first half alone against DeSales. We ended up doing a better job of adjusting the second half, but we're going to have to kind of bring that mentality and understand where the shooters are tomorrow night at all times. Because, again, they have several guys that can lift it.
Now, I asked Coach Brown this when I talked to him on the first podcast that we did, because they were in the middle of a stretch early on in the season. They're playing like 4 games in 11 or 12 days, and obviously every team goes through that at a different point where you play several games in a short span. Or how do you manage playing several games in a short span of time where you want to try to get some film study in, you want to do some scouting, but you also want to focus on what you do as well? Like, I guess, where do you fall on that preparation standpoint when you play so many games in a short amount of time?
Well, I think it's important that you have good balance with what you're doing. Again, as long as your kids understand what you're trying to do offensively and defensively, if that's if they're in the right mind frame of, hey, I've got to do this defensively, I've got to do this offensively. We do spend quite a bit of time on our opponents, player personnel, characteristics of each kid, and schematically whatever the team is we're getting ready to play, what they like to do. So we try to balance the two. But I think it's important you just don't lose sight of what you do as a team yourself. But we try to balance about 50-50, I would say. Especially, we bring our kids, like for example, tomorrow against Maysville, we bring our kids in on Sunday, go about an hour and a half, hour and 15 minutes. Might obviously be another night of hour and a half, hour and 15 minutes. Just depends how things are. But this time of year when you get into a grind, I think that if you go too long in the gym, sometimes that could be bad, both mentally and physically. So we try to limit that. We've got to, after the Maysville game, we get a little bit of break so we can start working on some more fundamental stuff that we like to focus on our own schematics. But at this point, when you're, from Tuesday, Friday, you got to watch what you do. I really believe in maybe balance at 50-50.
Now, after this week, we've got Christmas coming up. Do you do anything, with the family, friends? Do you go visit family anywhere? Do you have family come to you? What's your plans for the holiday season after this week of basketball?
We stick around here. Most of the family comes to the house, so I don't have to travel or anything right now. So, which makes it very, very nice. So
that's good. That's good. What are your Christmas favorites then? I guess I gotta know. Like a favorite movie, maybe a favorite gift you've ever gotten or given to somebody, things like that.
I don't know. Maybe favorite Christmas movie would be Christmas Vacation.
Okay, that's a classic.
Absolutely. And you know what? More importantly, I just like spending time with friends and family. Uh, a few parties here and there, and enjoy.
Yeah, I love it. Well, Coach, I really appreciate you taking the time to join us here this afternoon. But best of luck against Maysville Tuesday night, and obviously the rest of the season as well. But really appreciate you taking the time this afternoon.
Anytime, buddy. Thank you.